Welcome to Sim Sundays episode, I want to say it's 16. I should have looked that up before we started. Of Sim Sundays presented by Grid Finder, your weekly source of sim racing chat, a little bit of racing. Well, I say racing, but it's more just kind of casual laps to have a chat with the guest. And our guest this week is Cammie from Go for the Gap. So if you've ever just had in your head that I need something in my sim racing room that, represents sim racing a little bit more than just your own hand drawing, this is the perfect place to do that. Cammie, welcome to the show this week.
Oh,
How
hello.
are you?
Thank you. Thank you for that very kind introduction. I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Doing great. You've actually worked with us before on a couple of events. You've given some free prints out to some of our old Grid Finder invitationals, which have since stopped now. But the quality of your work is stellar, and I'm actually looking over here because I'm looking at your website right now, going, I kind of want to get one of these. What got you into doing these sim racing prints?
I suppose ever since I was little, I was drawing. Ever since, I could hold a pencil, I was drawing, and it was generally video game stuff when I was little, but also having grown up with a dad who likes Formula One.
Okay.
At the time, Nigel Mansell was very big in the UK, so I just sort of started drawing his car. It went from there. I took a tangent and went into working in animation and video games because I couldn't afford to go racing. And then sort of sim racing became really, a really respected esport. And so I kept at it. I decided to get into iRacing, and I realized people take their sim cars as seriously as people take their real world cars, but obviously there's no one there to take photos or do those passionate illustrations of your car because it doesn't really exist. So
right.
I thought, it's a great way to immortalize it because, once in 20 years, once those servers are offline, they'll be gone forever.
It's amazing because now you draw, or at least design, and take stuff off the internet, all of these yourself, or do you have a team of people? How does that exactly work?
It's just me. I'm not
Just
rich enough
you.
to afford people to help me. I think I offloaded a bit of work once to my cousin, but they wanted something Japanese. The client wanted something Japanese, anime, cutesy.
That's not your style?
Not quite. I used to do all of that.
Okay.
And I quickly handed that off to my cousin and sort of helped her out as she got started freelancing. But no, otherwise it's just me. So I can't get the prints out and illustrations out very quickly just because it's me.
Well,
and it's art, but also paid work has to take priority. And
of course. Now, I'm super jealous because, while I can take things into Photoshop or into Illustrator and I can manipulate them, but anytime that I'm making my own creations, let's say I want to make, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. I don't know why I picked that out of the air, but that's what I picked. Let's say I want to make that, right? I'll go into Illustrator. I'll make a bunch of shapes as I assume I'm supposed to do, and then it comes out and it never looks great. But your stuff looks absolutely fabulous. And
thank you. It's very much a trust the process.
You've said you've been drawing since you were very little, since you could pick up a pencil and all that stuff. So do you do primarily digital, or are you doing pen and paper or I guess it wouldn't be pen and paper because you can't erase that. That seems weird. But pencil and paper, how do you go about starting, just any of these drawings or any of these prints that you have up here?
It used to be a case of using a graphic tablet and looking up at the screen on Photoshop, and that wasn't the easiest, but like a Wacom.
I had one of those tablets as well, and it was the most frustrating thing because you're like trying to synchronize your eyes and your hand together. And yes, the mouse moves around, but like there's this natural want to like look down at the surface that you're drawing on, right?
And if your screen is if your screen is wider, a different ratio to the tablet, if you draw a circle on the tablet, it will come out as an oval on the screen because, unless you go into the settings and change it. But since about 2016, I've been drawing on an iPad, actually. Like the first iPad Pro, got a pencil. I bought it secondhand. I had a friend who worked in a secondhand store, traded a couple bits in, got that, and it's been the best purchase I've ever made. So I'll quickly sketch things down on the iPad, then take it over to another bit of software. It might be Affinity or CorelDRAW or Adobe Illustrator. It depends what style I'm going for and how much time I have. With CorelDRAW, I'll be using a mouse. With Illustrator, I'll be using a mouse. I think there is a tablet version of Illustrator. I'm still learning that.
There is, but it's not quite Illustrator. It's a wannabe Illustrator that they're going to call Illustrator. It's kind of like Photoshop. Like, they're getting there, and eventually I imagine there's going to be feature parity. But right now it's like, okay, I see it's getting more powerful, but it's just not quite there yet. I bought an iPad Pro thinking, you know what, I'm going to buy an iPad Pro and take some like online drawing courses just for some fun off time. And then inevitably, my lack of skills in the drawing department came to show themselves again. And then it was more of an exercise in trying to mess with my patience than anything. Because, they're trying to make you make the spheres and all the different shapes so that you can understand rigging and I forget what they call. I call it rigging because that's what they call it in animation on like After
So you're
Effects.
drawing the skeleton of the person.
Yeah. With just shapes. So like the legs are cylinders, the arms are cylinders, the hands are blocks, things like that. And I just, no matter how long that I spent in there. Now, of course, if I spent years, I'm sure I would eventually get it. But no matter what, it always ended up looking like I was in third grade still drawing. My skills have never evolved from third grade, in all honesty.
The trouble with the internet is there are great online tutorials out there, but also you can feel a bit disheartened when you see everybody else's work, and it's very easy to start comparing yourself. This is advice I'm giving you now that I definitely don't listen to myself. Like, just don't compare yourself to other people. You're all at different stages of a journey.
Yeah, and
I know I don't listen to that. I am always comparing myself to the other motorsport artists out there.
It's almost impossible to listen to that, though, because the same thing comes when it's, let's say you want to be a streamer or you want to be a YouTuber or pick anything, really, that where there's a significant skill gap from the beginning of your career to the end of your career. So taking content creation, like YouTube, for instance, you're like, oh, man, this one creator blew up in like 6 months. So if you are in it for 6 months and you're like, wow, I still only have 10 people that subscribe to my YouTube channel, you look at yourself as like, well, I didn't make it. I might as well hang up the towel and not do it.
It's funny you say that. I gave YouTube a try. I've got a channel with, it maybe got to 300 subscribers, but I realize it's a real full-time job. Being people like Jimmy Broadbent or Basic Ollie, these sim racers, it's a real full-time job to upload every day or every 2 days or just keeping on a schedule, because it means you have to do it even if you don't want to. Because all those algorithms rely on routine. And I tried and it just wasn't for me.
Us as sim racers, we're like, well, I enjoy sim racing. I can record the gameplay and talk into a mic and hang out with some people and talk about sim racing any day. So let's give this a shot. Or pick another video game, Call of Duty, or just a single player game, whatever it may be. And you're right. There's just so much that's involved in building an audience. And then not only do you have to do the daily uploads and daily editing and daily this, daily that, you have to get on social and start sharing. And then I always had the weird thing, no matter what kind of business, so content creation, my freelancing stuff that I do, I always have a problem where I don't feel like I should be promoting it as much as I really should be, because I feel like dirty about like, well, I'm self-promoting, so I better not post all the time in these in Discord or on Reddit or on
nobody else is going to blow your horn for you.
It's true, but it's a real weird thing, because I know when I look at, let's say I'm in a Discord with a group of streamers and it's thousands of people, right? When I'm in there and I look at the go live pages or channels rather, I'm always like, does this even work? Because I never click on any of these people. And so then I get into my own head and I'm like, well, why would I post if I never click because no one else is clicking? And it's just this weird, like, you always psych yourself out when you're trying to create something like that. And when it comes down to it, you should just do it. Put in the grunt work, but it becomes a job. And then if you have a normal 9 to 5, how do you find the time, you know? So when you created Go for the Gap, and by the way, I love your logo, and I just realized this today about your logo. The first G's negative space is a racing helmet, and that is fabulous. Because I was like, why are the G's different? Because that bugged me at first, because of graphic design. I was like, the G's are different. I don't like that. And then I was like, wait a minute. Now I understand why the G's are different. So the first one is an actual racing helmet. Where did you get the name of Go for the Gap, and what made you kind of, settle on that? Because naming things is probably one of the hardest things to do in the world.
Yeah, I'd love to say it was like a moment of inspiration, but it wasn't. It was literally trying to go through catchy names that other people hadn't taken, where I could get the URL for Twitter, YouTube, Etsy, and all of that. So I was thinking of sort of clever motorsport things. So inevitably, there's a social called Purple Sector. There'll be one called Racing Line. There'll be one called the Apex. All of these Formula One terms. So I thought, okay, now I've got to find one that nobody else has taken. And another name that didn't get chosen because I didn't think it was very strong. So it was like a play on the words of Parc Ferme, but it was Art Ferme.
Okay.
And I a few people said, oh yeah, it's clever, but I didn't. And then
that would be hard, because another thing that's difficult, explaining a name kind of defeats the purpose, because you want it to just be instantly stuck in someone's head, so that when they go to the internet inevitably and they Google search for it,
that's it.
It's easy to type, it's easy to come up with, especially in the beginning of a business like this. Your SEO is not quite up to par, so things that are close don't find you at all.
No, I made a list of F1 sort of terms. So I think there was a company called Box Now. So I thought, okay, I can't use that one. Purple Sector, Go, things like Lights Out, and then I thought Go for the Gap, and it hadn't been taken. Nobody had taken it. I made it. A month had passed, and then I know somebody told me that it was in use, and I panicked because I just got the logo done. And it turned out it was like a defunct Croatian Instagram page, but their logo was just really generic, and they'd printed a few shirts and then stopped trading.
Okay.
I did shoot them a message, but I think it's been 2.5, 3 years now, and they've not replied. So, and I actually think they've rebranded as a completely different name, because their old website, which was goforthegap.com, just redirects to something else now.
Oh, okay. And that's why you are .co.uk, or as I say it, .co.uk.
Yeah, that's why I'm .co.uk. I think they still have their old one redirecting, and I'm sure they do nice stuff, but we're not in competition with each other. They're printing shirts, I think, and they're based out of Eastern Europe, and I'm doing the art prints and sim racing stuff, and based out of, country that left Europe, I suppose.
There you go.
Yeah.
So how often do you do new designs, would you say?
In the early days of the Etsy store, it used to be every few days, because I was quickly just trying to build up a library of work, even though it was generally unpaid. And I'd get the occasional commission, but because I wasn't very well known and I didn't know how to price myself, these people were generally getting bargains before I knew about things like creative licenses and copyrights. And it wasn't until so I'll give him a shout out. Legendary motorsport artist Chris Rathbone, who, if you've checked out Daniel Ricciardo's Instagram account, there's artwork that Chris Rathbone has made for Daniel Ricciardo, and and Chris told me, but most of the money that he makes doesn't come from commissioning the artwork. It comes from licensing its use for commercial purposes.
Okay.
So it means if, I can charge somebody an amount for a piece of art, and if they're going to have it on their office wall, that's the end of it. But if it's a motorsport team and they say, well, we want to put it on shirts, and we want to put it on the truck, and we want to have it on caps and sell merchandise, and we want it on our Instagram, everything like that, it's like, well, then now there's a commercial license that comes into effect, and that's so I'm
Interesting.
learning.
Yeah, well, that's the natural progression of any business is in the beginning. I think it's just like a rite of passage. You always make your prices way too low because you're like, oh, well, no one knows me. So in order to get business, I have to be cheaper.
And I'm not good enough.
I'm not good enough. You know, it's just the whole myriad of emotions that you go through when you're trying to create a business. And then, you know, personally, because I do freelance work as well, for a completely different thing, but I also feel weird about like raising my prices to a level that I really want to make. So I have this chart in Notion that is like what I need versus what I want in like a daily income, monthly income, etc., right? And I know what I need to be at in order to make how much I want to make in life. But I look at that and I go, I don't know.
You come over all nice
about that.
It's easy to come over all nice because we're all quite close. It's a close knit community, motorsport, isn't it?
It is.
Everybody knows everybody, and everybody's so friendly. And then you come over all friendly and go, oh, well, I'll knock a bit off then. Oh, it's you. I'll make it a bit cheaper. And they're probably going great, but
in the end,
rent a very small place. I need a bigger place.
Probably just say the exact price that you want and that you feel you deserve, and they'd probably go, "Oh, okay." Because that's that's another thing that I've realized in business is half the time you're just afraid to ask for what you want, and the other person would completely agree. Because then let's say you quote a project, and just for round numbers, you're like, "I want 1,000, but I'm going to give it to them for 750."
Yeah,
and they instantly agree, and you're like, "Well, I should have." I
have had that before, and you think I can't go back and
I can't that's it now. So since you were willing to pay $750, what about?
I mean, I had that recently for the Last Lap podcast. I didn't know what it was about. I did their logo for a set price that I always do logos for, and I thought it was like a little podcast at home, but it wasn't. It was this big TV studio sort of thing with Tomo F1, and I was like, live and learn. Live and learn. I can boast that it's my logo and my design, but live and learn.
Yeah, I guess there is a little bit of, if you do run into a situation such as that, you can be like, okay, well, now I can put them in my little checkerboard of people I've worked with, which is nice.
Yeah, that is always great. And they were very nice on Twitter, and they gave me some pictures of the studio to share.
Nice.
They were very happy to work with me. And I think a few months later, they needed some files, and I just sent them the files, and they were happy that I was helpful like that. I suppose some people will say, no, we don't have those files anymore.
Well, I've hired a couple different designers for various projects in my career, my day job. And a lot of the time they'll give you a deliverable. And let's say that the deliverable was for, I don't know, a logo for a website, right? And we all know that websites are pixel based. We don't really care about it being vector as much as like a print shop would, right? So I've had a situation where I asked the artist, I'm like, oh, can we just have the vector copy to make it any size? And they're like, oh, well, you didn't pay for that licensing for any size. Now it's going to be this extra size, this price. And I was like, oh, well, while that's understandable, that sucks.
Yeah, I suppose if you asked about it up front, they might have done you a deal. I suppose it's like you didn't get the meal deal. You've bought a couple bits, then forgotten you want something, gone back, and they've sort of,
right. I bought the cheeseburger without the fries, and then I went back and was like, hey, I want the combo deal. And they're like, no, you have to buy the fries separate now. It's
that's it.
Different transaction kind of
I think that's pretty much the best analogy for it.
And I don't know why I went with like fast food from America example for that, but whatever.
No, it completely makes sense. Obviously, plenty of McDonald's and everything over here as well. I think Mike might have to help me out on this. I think Wendy's just opened up in the
Wendy's
UK.
Is one of my favorites.
Yeah, I've never been to a Wendy's.
I enjoy them thoroughly. I find their burgers to be better, their fries to be worse. So it's like go there for a burger, go to McDonald's for the French fries, because I believe they put some kind of addictive substance in there of some sort, because, man, sometimes I just absolutely have to have not just any French fry, it's McDonald's French fries. This is not an advertisement. They do not sponsor this. But I do hear from Tom, which unfortunately he's not here because he's on holiday, or as we in America call it, because we like to be different on all kinds of random things, we call it vacation. But he's told me that the size differential between American like large, for example, and like UK large is essentially our small is your guys's large. And then our large is like a bucket of drinks. That's
it, yeah.
humongous and giant and unnecessary. We even have to have in our cars special cup holders that we like put in our cup holders to make the cup holders bigger to be able to hold the giant cups that we have. You know you have a problem if American car companies don't make cup holders big enough for the cups that are being used in America, right? That seems kind of weird.
Don't you start call when they get to that big, aren't they like quarts or something? You call them like half-gallon.
No, well, some restaurants will go by the actual, and of course we don't use liters, we use gallons and ounces and all that instead of the simple metric system way. But yeah, some restaurants do that, but for the most part, it's just like small, medium, large, extra large, and then one in the chat said the super size used to be a thing. They've gotten rid of super size.
I remember that movie. Super size me.
After that movie, basically nowhere uses super size me anymore because the bad connotation between that and, well, just supersizing in general.
For metric, it's worse over here because obviously we have our food in grams, kilograms, liters, but then on the road it will say miles per hour, yards. Okay, so we have this we have this strange mix of metric and imperial systems, and the UK gallon is different to the US gallon.
What?
So when we're trying to work out a car's fuel efficiency, we're buying the fuel in liters.
What?
But then we'll be told the efficiency in miles per gallon. So we're going, right, well, how many liters are in a gallon? Which gallon? American gallon or a UK gallon? I don't know.
That is absolutely ridiculous.
Right.
And I guarantee someone in some office somewhere went, if we do it this way, a lot of people are going to be confused and think it's better than it actually is.
Oh, no doubt. And, I mean, it would make sense for us to sell the fuel in gallons if we've got fuel efficiency in miles per gallon, because it does say cars they are advertised saying this car will use 7 liters to drive 100 kilometers. But if you say 100 kilometers to people in the UK, they wouldn't be able to visualize it in their mind.
That's
We're still
interesting
very
because
miles based.
Me as an American, of course, when
a freedom loving American.
Oh yeah. when someone says a mile, I pretty much understand how far that is. But if you say a kilometer, I don't know. People say it differently all the time. It's kind of like pop and soda, but those are two. Anyway, I have no like real idea of how long it is. Or like a yard on a football field for us, which I'm talking American football because that's another thing that we feel like we need to soccer versus football. We don't even have to go into that. But on like an American football field, there's the hash marks on there. So that's a yard. And then when someone says a meter, I'm like, wait, and it takes me a while to like mentally picture and get an accurate reading of how far it is.
Yeah, it's imperial. If you're writing a book and you're describing a character, imperial sounds better to the ear. If you've got a character and they say, I'm 6'2", that sounds better than I'm 192 centimeters.
Centimeters is weird to measure people in, I will admit.
It's too small of a unit.
Yeah, I feel like even inches is almost too small of a unit. It's just so I'm like 70 inches, and that just sounds weird to me.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, 5'10" is fine. Like, that's fine.
Yeah. You don't need accurate, you're just categorizing the first section. So that's your 5 foot. And then
the rest is just like whatever.
But if you just said 70 inches, I don't know how tall that would be.
I have no idea. Yeah, I have no idea.
Are you actually
to bring that back into sim racing a little bit, anytime there's a video game, I always have to change it to Imperial because if I don't, if I'm driving in like Forza Horizon or something like that and it's in the metric system and it's telling me I'm going 180 kilometers per hour. I have no idea how fast I'm going. I'm like, I'm going quickly. I don't know. That's about all I know is I'm going quickly. But if I'm going 120 miles per hour, I'm like, okay, I have a bit of a reference point there. It's crazy how my mind just doesn't work that way.
I know Europeans must have it the other way as well. But the strangest thing is I've been to the continent. They use centimeters, they use meters, but not for their televisions. They will still say inches for their televisions.
That's true. It's true. Well, what's really frustrating is that we kind of interchange the two. So when you're building something, right? So let's say you're doing a bathroom construction. Some things will be in imperial, other things will be in metric, and you have to like actively switch back and forth as you're building things, and it drives me insane.
I think
Absolutely
NASA lost
insane.
a spaceship because of that once.
It's like, it's the most annoying thing to be like, now I have to do this weird conversion, and like, what if my tape measures are all the imperial tape measures? So anytime I see something in millimeters, I'm like, now I got to pull out my phone and convert it, and then it's like not on a hash mark. So I'm like, I just kind of have to get close.
I'll send you one of our tape measures. They've got both.
They do. I should get one, but anytime I'm buying a tape measure, I'm never thinking of, oh yeah, I should probably get one that has both. I'm just like, oh, just get the normal everyday tape measure that you would buy at Lowe's or Home Depot. You know,
How
it's
did we
kind of
get
funny.
to this topic? How did
I
we
don't
get
know.
here?
I don't know. I'm very
Go
good
back to
at
racing.
completely just sidetracking and then speaking an hour over there. But anyway, yeah. So let's get back to racing. So tell us how, or tell me how, I guess us, me, whatever. How did you get your start in sim racing? When did you first start, playing around with it, and what made it become this passionate thing that now you run a business on?
Back when televisions were that big behind, and you put videos in, you had to rewind them. There was a racing sim on PC and Atari called Jeff Crammon's Grand Prix.
Okay.
And that was the first racing simulator I ever had on like a really old PC, and about 8 frames per second, and really blocky. You can Google it. It's like where Formula One race simulators really started, and it was the first one to let you really set up your car, and it would have realistic changes. So I've basically been playing race games since then, sort of through PlayStation 2, Dreamcast, up to sort of slowly upgrading my PC along the way, I suppose. Until I suppose started taking it seriously around 2015.
Okay.
Getting into things like iRacing, like wincing at the cost of it. But
so 2015 getting involved in iRacing, that's a long journey.
I think it was around then, and I had a go on my Xbox controller and then immediately lost. I was like, oh, okay, this is a really serious simulator.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to give it a while, get a steering wheel and everything.
I think most of us have played racing games on controller at some point. Of course, keyboard was the first thing. A flight joystick was in there at some point, because it was analog, and you can, kind of turn rather than full on off, just a 1 or a 0 kind of a thing. So that was nice, but it felt weird because it's a flight controller and it just doesn't marry well to a steering wheel. But like the Need for Speed games and the Midnight Club games and stuff like that, where it's kind of open world racing and it's just kind of for fun, arcade style stuff. I played all that on controllers.
Yeah. Same. I had those. It was only iRacing where I got to it, tried it with an Xbox controller, and I could get the car around the circuit, but I was a lap down in the MX-5s in the rookies. And I just realized you need so much finesse and control that you can't really get through a controller. I'm sure there's somebody out there now who say, actually, you can do it. But I couldn't.
There's some amazing controller players out there. Specifically, I see a lot of them playing on F1. So the F1 game with a controller, and they're setting like world record lap times and stuff like that.
Those games like Gran Turismo Sport, Gran Turismo 7, F1 2022, because they're on consoles, they're mandated to tweak the physics to suit. They can't exclude the controller players entirely.
Yeah, it's almost like they'd probably
they're a bit arcadey.
They're a bit arcadey, and they're specifically designed to work with the hardware that you naturally just have with the system, so that being a controller, and then they're adapted probably later for a full steering wheel. Because there are times where, for instance, in the F1 game, where it almost doesn't feel like it's controlling correctly when you're using a full wheel setup. Just it almost feels a little bit kind of, I don't know how to articulate it, but it's almost like it's too responsive. Now I know you can adjust it and everything, but I never found that golden perfect zone, because I always try to make it so that when I turn the wheel, the hands on the screen are doing the exact same amount of motion. And it always seemed like it just didn't feel right for me. I don't know why.
No, I've never. I've not actually played any of the F1 games since about 2019, and even then, I only had I bought it, had a few races on it. The online play was a bit crazy. They just smash you off because they're not taking it seriously. And then I never really went back to it. But like R Factor 2 and iRacing have their own F1 cars, and I seem to gel a lot better with them there, with sort of drivers who take it a bit more seriously. So
that's an interesting thing you say there, where it's because obviously GridFinder has a ton of F1 leagues on the site. So if you're looking for an F1 league, go to gridfinder.com. Anyway,
I've got to buy F1 2022 first, but then as soon as I buy that, 2023 will come out.
Well, I always stay a year behind in all EA games, because then you get it for like pennies, basically.
Yeah,
I just got FIFA 23 for $10 because they wanted to get you playing FIFA so that you get to FIFA 23, and I'm like, I'm not paying $70. I'll just wait until next year when FIFA 23 is $10 and I'll buy that. So I'm always a year behind there. But it's interesting that you say, they're not taking it seriously in some of those leagues. I think that, generally speaking, is the feel of sim racing when you go into the random started servers. So if it's just, you go to a server list, there's no real organization behind it. It's just the Wild West, and anyone can jump in. I think that's where you get the people that are always crashing you, or if you pass them, they pit maneuver you just so that you don't get around the track.
Yeah.
But when it comes to racing in F1 or in any game, joining a league is better. Do you race in any leagues?
Not recent. I have been in a couple, sort of powered by simracing.gp. There's the ONID racing series. ONID standing ONID standing for Oh No, I Died. I've been doing a lot of commentary work with them recently. I sort of do the commentary on their Sunday night GT3 leagues.
Okay.
ONID are sort of sponsored by Jimmy Broadbent as well. So
nice.
They had to beat out 20 or so other esport leagues to get that sort of sponsorship deal with Jimmy Broadbent. And I've been in a few championship sort of esport leagues. So I did one with
the people in the real leagues. Yeah. I find that they take it seriously, and it's something that, there's respect on the track. Normally they don't try to crash you just because you pass them, because the stewards will get involved and ban them for a race or whatever.
Yeah, there's consequences, and you'll be seeing them again next round. It's not just a 15-year-old kid who's just booted up his PlayStation. He's annoyed. He's taking stress out on everybody else crashing, and then just goes, I'm done, and just sort of throws the controller and sort of goes down and has dinner. But when you've got a league, and of course, like live stewarding.
That I personally would never volunteer to be a steward, ever.
I've done some post-race stewarding, and it generally came down to, there was 5 stewards, and it was like a minority-majority decision process. Well, so
at
most
least
people
it's not
think
just like your decision is what gets handed down to the.
No, it's not a Formula One situation, yeah. Thank goodness, where all the blame can be pinned on one person.
Yeah, that would be a little rough.
It would be, but I have had the chance to race some famous people in esport leagues, so that's been fun, and sort of got to beat a few as well. So really,
that's even better. Better. Now,
yeah, it does wonders for your ego.
My sim racing skills are normally put to use in time trial style leagues, so that's where I feel comfortable, because for some reason I don't know what it is about just being on the track with other people. I just make the worst decisions, always. The break points, turn-in points, apex, all of it is just the worst decisions ever. But if I can turn on some tunes and just kind of zone out and throw together a couple hot laps, I'm definitely a hot lap player, without a doubt.
Oh, I can't do hot. I'm
Really?
no, I'll qualify. Okay, but I'll come up during the race. I can be consistent. I tend not to make the mistakes other people make.
Wow, so you're polar opposite to me. Like
not a hot lapper.
Interesting, because like I'll qualify and I'll be like in the middle of the field, which is good for me, and that's fine. And then when the race comes, I just tank it all and just last place, lapped by everyone, and just most of the time I've been able to flip cars over in AC that I didn't even know you could.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I've done it on stream for I think it was the GP Laps episode. I flipped the car and crashed into a barrier enough to where the wheel busted, and then I was just spinning in a circle out in the dirt. It's kind of a meme at this point, my incredible driving skills. But if you put me in a hot lap situation, I can normally put it together and organize my thoughts and organize my timings and all that stuff. But put another person in that going into that corner, all is out the window. It's like all of my brain just shuts off and goes, I don't want to hit them. I don't want to hit them. I don't want.
You're one of those drivers. I like them where I can just poke my nose in and scare you. I'll have no intention to pass at that corner, but if I can scare you, and you're looking in the mirror, not at the track ahead.
The moment I see you do one of these and you disappear from my rear view mirror, I'm like, where'd it go? Ah!
That's it. Yeah, they're gone.
Oh no, they're beside me and I can't turn in anymore. And then off the track.
Oh, dear. I mean, I'm sure we'll get some hot lapping tonight.
Yeah, hopefully, because we only do the practices, we did races in the first, I want to say it was like 8 to 9 episodes, something like that. We were actually racing. And a lot of the time what ended up happening is that the conversation kind of went downhill because everyone's concentrating because it's a real race. So you want to place, you want to do well. You also kind of want the guest to win a little bit because, makes the guest be like, oh, I won the race in my episode. It kind of feels good and all that. But we switched it then to a track day format for AC and then just practice for ACC. And then sometimes we do iRacing, and last time we just did practice as well. So it just takes a lot of stress off of it, and we can still chit chat and have some fun, So what is your favorite sim racing game at the moment?
Oh, I suppose it depends on the flavor.
Okay.
Generally, Assetto Corsa Competizione.
Okay.
Very much enjoy it for my serious sim racing. But if I want to relax and chill out a little bit, I play Circuit Superstars.
Okay. So I'm going to guess, there's a question in chat, do you prefer oval or road? And I'm going to guess your selection would be road.
Road indeed, yeah.
I've
done a little oval racing, but it becomes obvious that I'm not American and I don't know what I'm doing.
You don't know what's going on. So the first time I ever oval raced, I think it was it Jeep? No, GP wasn't oval. It was Jeff McConey. And we got on the oval. And it's actually a lot of fun. It's interesting because you don't realize how technical oval racing really is until you're doing it, right?
Oh, yeah. I did it once and quickly.
You're just like, oh, we just turn left and do the exact same thing 452 times. Like, that's it, right? But you get on the track with other cars and the slipstreaming and the passing and just all the craziness that ensues when you're going into the corners and coming out of the corners is very white knuckle driving for me because I'm nervous again because there's cars around me. But I definitely am on the same side as you. I like road racing. And why would you say you like road racing more? Is there something specific that you can pinpoint as to why road just kind of grabs your attention more?
Nah, I'm sure it's just because that's what I was brought up on, just being this side of the pond. I grew up with Formula One. Those circuits became iconic to me. But I've done a little bit of oval racing. I did a graphic job for a W Series driver, Alice Powell, and then she invited me into a Discord for just like a silly Skip Barber race on an oval in iRacing. And sort of I got to race against sort of Alice Powell, Ian M. Ahmed, Billy Munger, Charles Leclerc was in there very briefly.
Wow.
And
really, that would...
A lot of people were making contact and a lot of people were crashing. And it was very technical because the slipstream is really strong in those cars and they only maybe do 100 miles an hour tops, or it felt like that.
Those little Skip Barbers are very cool cars to drive.
They were great fun, But I mean, I managed to come second, so
Well, if everyone else is crashing and stuff, you're just, you know.
I mean, I did make a legitimate pass on Billy Munger, so
There you go. Nice. I've just liked road because I don't know. It feels, before I went to oval, it just kind of felt more technical. So I was like, okay, I want to be able to turn both directions is the first thing that comes to mind. And then, once you start racing, like Road America is probably one of my favorite tracks. Laguna Seca is one of my second favorite tracks. Nürburgring is up there as well. They feel fabulous to drive. When you put a full lap together on any of the road tracks, you just feel amazing. You see the little green marker that's like best lap, and you're like, yes, I did it. I can be happy for the day. I put together my absolute best. And I don't know, on oval, while all the technical bits do come together and do make for a very fun white knuckle race, me being a time trial guy, I don't think I'd have so much fun in a time trial on an oval, to be honest.
suppose it's the way European circuits organically grew out of just great driving roads. So Spa-Francorchamps, that we'll drive later, just grew out of the country roads in sort of the hills
amazing.
of Belgium. And I'm not a fan of these sort of newer cookie cutter Herman Tilke circuits that are all flat and sort of have a formula of, right, there must be a long straight, and then there must be a really sharp hairpin here, and there must be, they follow a formula rather than let's follow the curvature of the land. And say my favorite track where I grew up, Brands Hatch, which was on the pole, but it didn't win.
It did not. It was a very, very close poll, though.
It was, yeah, people were wrong not to choose that.
I think it was one of the closest we've ever seen for Sim Sundays. I'm trying to pull it up here because I put it in our
every choice
message. It was
had a story behind it.
Well, I'm going to ask you now that you said that. So it was 33.3 to 35.3 to 31.4. And of course, Spa came out ahead. Brands Hatch was in second, and Watkins Glen was in last. But last by that small of a percentage is not a lot at all. So tell me a little bit about the stories. So let's start with the last place one, Watkins Glen. What's the story behind that one?
I mean, it's probably good that one came last because it kind of had the weakest story, but it's just where I picked up I think it was like my first proper sim racing win in a league event in, I think it was Formula 3. And we had our cars, I was fighting for the lead throughout the race, but I had set my car up for downforce and the person behind had set theirs up for top end speed. Ooh. So what just kept happening was they'd pass me down the back straight, and then coming into so you got that really long right hander. It's not called the boot, the chute, maybe the really long right that's like 180 degrees almost. I could overtake them on the inside or the outside. It didn't matter which side I took. I could go past them.
So they couldn't even really defend on that corner anyways.
No, but any straightaway, and they were straight back past. So it was this real fight. And every single lap, all 25 laps, the lead changed.
That's amazing.
And it was the hardest fought win I've ever had. But
okay. I mean, that's a great story. And definitely being one of your first, you said it was the first win that you had?
Yeah, sort of first Formula 3 iRacing league.
I think that no matter who you are in sim racing, you're always going to remember your first win track. Definitely. Well, I guess you're always going to remember any wins track because they're wins. Let's be honest, unless you're winning every week. But at that point, whatever. But that's a cool story. And did it happen in the R8 GT3 as well? Is that why you picked that car for Watkins? Or Watkins.
No. So the Audi is just a car that I've come to like recently in ACC. Okay. I used to use the Aston Martin religiously.
Okay.
But teammates of mine in a sort of... So you've got to go for the gap, and then I just thought, hey, I should have a team called Go for the Gap Racing. There's about 7 of us now. Nice. Sort of a few drivers, former Team Fordzilla drivers have come over to race for us, which is quite nice. And yeah, most of them were saying, you'll go quicker in the Audi.
I fought it for a while. So I was always driving McLarens and Ferraris pretty much exclusively. And then I got into the Audi. I can't remember why. I think Tom was the inspiration behind me going into the Audi at some point. And it was very consistent and almost easier to drive than the other two cars, to be honest with you. So
It's easier than the McLaren.
I definitely can understand why people gravitate towards it, because I do see a lot of people using that car, or at least in the circles that I hang out in. You know? So,
yeah.
But okay, so the second one would be Brands Hatch, and you picked the BMW M4 GT3 for that one. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, that was because last year I passed my sort of racing license test in a BMW M4 at Brands Hatch.
Oh, wow.
And it was
okay.
crazy how on the second lap of my test, it just clicked in my head and it just felt like I was using a virtual reality headset in the game. And it was very unsettling. And I was told, now the instructor, they don't want you to go super fast. They just want you to go about 60% of, you know, a fast pace, well within the bounds of, you know, so you're not sliding off the track or anything.
Right. They want to keep you safe just so you pass the test, you know.
You know, we're looking for safety, not speed. And then my instructor was going faster, brake later, brake harder, overtake this Toyota, get past them. And the horrible thing was, I'd gone into the test and I'd said, look, I do sim racing, but I don't want to be that person and think I'm all that because I've done sim racing. I said, would you like me to brake with my left or my right foot?
Mm-hmm.
And they said, you're right, as you would in a road car. So I thought, okay. And I shouldn't have done that because I'm not used to race. Because he was pushing me so hard, I'm not used to pushing the brake that hard with my right foot.
Yeah, it's a completely different feel. I've actually, so I know probably shouldn't have done this, but I'm in my little Ford Fusion, you know, it's got a little bit of power to it. And I'm like, I wonder what left foot braking feels like in a real car.
We've all done. And you go,
yes, you tap the brake and you're just like, whoa, no, that does not work at all. It was the weirdest sensation because, you know, in my head, like muscle memory like, took over. And I have the load cell pedals on my sim rig. And, you know, a normal car's pedals is not anywhere like what you have to do on a load cell pedal. So I stamped down on the pedal and I threw myself forward and was like, well, I won't be doing that again.
No. Did anybody see me do that? No.
I know you're looking in your rear view. You're like, oh, man, that was not what I intended to do.
But I have the opposite problem. So I've maybe reached 110 miles per hour down the Brands Hatch straight, which everyone knows it's not very straight and it's not very long. And this is just a road car. And the trouble was that it's a very luxurious car, the M4.
It's a very nice car, yeah.
And yeah, but that meant he kept telling me to change gear. Like he kept thinking I was forgetting to change gear. I wasn't. I just needed it to rev that high so I could hear it because I was, as a racer, we rely on the engine sound. Yeah. We're not looking down at the dial going, oh, I'm going that fast.
Right.
I'm in that gear.
A road car, it's trying to seal out some of the exterior noise.
So I go to brake into turn 1, paddock hill bend. I brake with my right foot and he goes, brake harder. So I go, okay, I'll brake harder. I've missed the apex. The backs, then we've gone over the crest of the hill. The car's gone light. The back end stepped out. And then I'm counter steering a slide. And I get it together and continue on our way.
That sounds fabulous.
And I do the next few laps thinking, I failed the test. Yeah. And we get back to the pits and he says, you know what I'm going to say to you, don't you? I said, in my defense, I did handle it. He said, you did handle it. You kept it out the gravel just, and you were good with other cars passing you. So if my boss didn't see it, I'll pass you. So I thought, hang on, you were telling me to go faster.
Yeah, right.
I can't remember his name. He was a nice guy, and I've seen him since at Brands Hatch. But
that's amazing.
Yeah, it's
so you had the exact opposite of my experience on the road. Left foot braking, you were light on the right foot and threw everything out of whack. Yep.
But I have done what you did as well on the road.
You have to try it, right?
Empty road, and I just thought, I wonder what it feels like. And that was in a little sports car I had. It's like, oh dear.
Like, I feel like as a sim racer that also drives, almost everyone has had to try it once, right? Had to. It feels odd that if someone is never curious about what it feels like to left foot brake in a real car.
I mean, if you haven't done it, go do it.
Coming from us, two people who have slammed on the brakes basically and thrown ourselves forward, it's not all it's cracked up to be. It doesn't feel anything like sim racing. So,
but it's very weird because you think, I'm sure I didn't put more pressure on it.
Right. It's just
but
the hydraulics and all that stuff that just like, well, and then if it starts to brake a little bit too hard and you're thrown forward, your foot's thrown forward too. So it makes it
and
even
usually
worse.
As a driver, you know it's coming, so you brace for it.
Mm-hmm. But
you're not expecting it.
So instantaneous that you have no idea that it was coming. So you're just throwing yourself straight into your steering wheel and going, wow, that wasn't what I expected at all.
That will just
funny.
Next time I'm out in the car, it's going to happen. In my head, it will go, do it.
Right.
Do it.
Both
Try
of us,
it.
next time we get in a car, are going to go, now I know what it feels like. And we just talked about it, so I'm thinking about it. Let's try again.
Let's do it again. Why would you do it again? Let's do it again.
Let's give it a shot, right? Oh, man. So the last one, the one we are actually racing today, it's going to be Spa in the AM Vantage.
So
the V8 Vantage. That thing.
I mean, can I give a shout out to somebody? Because it relates to the story. There's a YouTuber that you probably have seen his videos, Josh Revel. 340,000 subscribers. He does Formula One videos, usually topical about what's going on, like the current season, and he'll sort of sprinkle in some historic stuff. And his videos will always say, keep it respectful, keep it wholesome, don't be a manus, and I'll see you next time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I have seen him. Now,
that was me trying to do a Kiwi accent.
The new way that YouTube does its recommendations and things, though, on the home screen, there's a lot of creators that I watch on a normal basis that I have no idea who they are and I'm not subscribed. It just keeps, their stuff just keeps coming back up on my home feed or whatever, which is kind of weird. And especially as a creator, is kind of discouraging to think about. But I have seen those videos.
Well, I've done some graphic work for him. He's a big fan of my artwork. And he said, I'm coming over to Europe for the Belgian Grand Prix. Would you like to come with me? And I thought it was a joke, or he's winding me up, or I'm going to get murdered, something like that. I've never met him. And no, we went via Eurostar, which for Americans out there, that's the train that goes under the English Channel from Folkestone, from London to Paris, but it also goes from London to Brussels in Belgium. So we both went on the Eurostar, went to the Belgium Grand Prix, and I know people. I work closely with the LGBT organization Racing Pride, sort of promotes LGBT inclusion in motorsports. Mm-hmm. And one of their ambassadors, Mr. Matt Bishop, is the director of communications for Aston Martin Cognizant F1.
Okay.
And I'd met him a few years ago when I was at W Series. And I just said, I realize it comes across as begging, but I was like, we're coming to the Belgian Grand Prix. I didn't ask for a paddock pass. I'd love to be able to see you. And he said, if you've got a paddock pass, you can come for a coffee, sure. And I said, I don't, but never mind. And he said, well, I'll see if I can get you one.
Wow.
And he managed to get, for Josh and myself, a paddock pass, which meant we had about 4 hours. And Jess at Aston Martin, I don't know her last name, but Jess, thank you so much. She gave us a tour. So it started in the hospitality area. It wasn't Hawkins. No. No, her LinkedIn says Jess C. And she is she does look very similar. If she wore the bobble hat, she'd be mistaken for Jess Hawkins. But no, she was in charge of hospitality. So she specializes in sort of special guests, VIP guests, giving them tours. So it started with the hospitality area. We met, and I can say it now, but Nick de Vries was in there. And obviously we couldn't say we'd met Nick de Vries in Aston Martin because it might have spoiled something. And it turned out he was practicing for them at Monza before the Williams call up. So we met Nick, and then we went through to the sort of truck that's right by the garage. Rather than the hospitality one, there's the one with all the tyres and car parts. And on the way, we bumped into David Croft, and he just started talking to us. He said hello to Jess. He obviously knows Jess. And then he just turned to Josh and I and was like, oh, hey, nice to meet you. Shook our hands. Do you want a photo? Yeah, of course you do. Arms around us. And I managed to give him, like, I've got a book of my artwork. I managed to give that to him. And
Wow.
I wish I'd got him to sign one, and I forgot. I was just...
Well,
and then he gave me commentary tips. It was lovely of him. And he was just such a down-to-earth, easy to talk to. Just... They might appreciate it when people aren't shoving a phone in their face trying to get a selfie.
yeah, probably. I mean, you know, if I was a celebrity, I think I would appreciate that.
I mean, they must get it a lot. I was at W Series and David Coulthard was just being swarmed by people shoving phones in his face.
Yeah.
And I thought it must get annoying. So when we met Nick de Vries, it was handshake. How are you? Congratulations on your success. Meet David Croft, handshake, talk.
Classy. Nice.
We saw Martin Brundle, but he was on the phone, so we left him alone. Don't want to be that person. And then just took us through to the garage
and talking on the phone, but can you pay attention to me instead? Yeah.
Yeah, the world revolves around me for the now.
Yeah, right.
Took us through to the garage. We got a signed hat from Lance Stroll and Sebastian Vettel.
Okay.
That is...
I like the Sebastian one, but the Stroll one.
There. Well, it's one hat signed by both of them. If you can see where I'm pointing.
There? Okay, yes.
That one is signed by both of them.
They can't see on the stream, but they can see some of the hats behind you. But yes, I do see it.
Oh yeah. There is a hat up there, but it might be clipped out of shot. And then we got to mill around the pit lane whilst all the teams were doing their practice pit stops. Amazing. So mechanics have pushed the car into place and they're quickly going, pew, pew.
That's amazing.
But I've practiced the sound effects and everything.
Yeah, that sounded pretty accurate, actually.
Yeah. But
so
it was crazy being in that environment.
Some of the most amazing things that I see on social are just... I follow a lot of photographers like Peter McKinnon and stuff like that, and he's been going to F1 races a lot lately. And it's just fascinating to watch their little Instagram and their stories just being in the most amazing places. So I can only imagine what that felt like to be in that environment.
I didn't realize it's... You see it on TV all the time, but when you're there, it's very different. It's...
Really?
Yeah, it's... They're all trucks that have come in, but it's hard to believe they're trucks because they've all unfolded into these 3-story buildings.
Transforming building,
and they're so solid.
Things.
Yeah, it's not like you hit a wall and it wobbles. They feel solid, like they've always been there. And it feels like a small town because you've just got this road down the middle with buildings on each side for Pirelli, AMG, every team, including, say Pirelli for the tyres as well. And the people all talking to each other because they all work together. If, across teams, they'll all know each other because...
Yeah, they see each other every week for many, many hours each day. So
and they've likely worked for one team, then worked for another team, and they've been around the paddock.
Sure. It's funny that you say like you hit it and it wobbles because I'm thinking of like if you go to an RV park, just like an RV campground, and you see the person go into their camper and the whole thing's going this as they go up the stairs, and you can see every footstep that they're walking around. They're not quite like that, right?
But that's like the sort of the foundation of motorsport. When you go to club events and it's just people with their caravan, they've got an awning down over the car to keep them in the shade.
Yeah.
Some people might have something. I think, I know one driver who has an American RV, and it's very strange in the UK. It really sticks out as that is very American.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't even really think that there would be a difference between like an American RV and any other RVs.
They're just bigger.
Well, you call them caravans, right?
Yeah, this was just bigger.
Oh, well, because it's America. We do everything to level 12.
Don't have to worry about little country roads that have sort of been born out of, horse tracks that Romans then built on, You've got interstate highways that are really, 10 lanes wide.
Very true. Very true.
I've been to America a few times. I know my way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Just Florida.
which is the best one? Well, not really. It's the best one tropically, like environmentally for me. That's where I want to ultimately live because I just like the weather is nice. It is a little crazy. I don't know if you've ever been on Reddit or not, but there's a whole subreddit dedicated to Florida Man. So if
Oh,
you want
yeah.
some American comedy, there's a r/Florida Man, and it's just weird things that actually happen in Florida that are just so unbelievable. They sound like movies, made up
I've
stories, but
heard
they're
some.
things that legitimately happen in the state of Florida. And while I will avoid all of those things, I do love the environment down there because it's kind of a vacation/living vibe, and I just really like that. Plus,
I can
I
still
hate
feel the
snow.
humidity.
Oh, I love it. I love
When
it
you
so
step out the
much.
airport and you just go bang
Yeah, it
into
just
that.
like hits you in the face, and you're just like, whoa, the air just got really heavy. Whoa.
Yeah, especially coming from the UK where it's much colder, and
Yep.
then that just tropical wall of boom. Oh, yeah, we're in Florida
Yeah,
now.
and it for a moment
Pre-internet.
it's like a little bit harder to breathe for a moment just because it's so thick. Yeah, I definitely know exactly what you're talking about, and I love it.
But
Absolutely
pre-internet,
love it.
everybody thought I was Australian.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so there was no, this was 97, and then I went again in 2003. So really sort of pre-Facebook and
Yeah.
YouTube and everything.
I guess
And
culturally before the
the,
internet, like you wouldn't be exposed to a lot of other accents and things. Like they thought Georgia
that's
was
it.
the end.
See, to us, if you say Georgia, it's like, what, that country by Russia?
Oh, yeah, yeah. That's funny that I picked one state that's named the same as a country. Yeah, of course I
Yeah, so
did.
when people say Georgia, I'm like, oh, no, the American state. Oh, okay.
Yep, yep, yep. That would be interesting. Life is so different with the internet now. We're just exposed to so much more. It's better and worse at the same time. It's kind of interesting.
I've heard
But
about American kids watching Peppa Pig and picking up British accents, and I think that's brilliant.
that would be amazing because while I don't feel like I have any accent because, well, this is where I live, everyone talks this way. I've been told by other people that I have a very American accent.
Oh, blimey, Governor, you do have a right strong accent, you do. I ain't got
But
no accent, I haven't, no.
not at all. I like accents. I personally wish I could do voiceover acting and just switch my accent to any accent I want. Now, of course, you could take classes and learn the phonetics of all the different languages, but I always thought that would be really cool to just like be able to randomly just switch between a bunch of different accents whenever
I mean,
you
I
feel
could
like
teach
it.
you quickly how to say bottle of water like a British person.
Bottle of water? What?
But
That's
now try and say it without the T's.
water.
That's it. So bottle of water.
Bottle of water.
There you go.
Okay.
You're a Brit.
Just remove the T's. There you go.
Bottle of water.
Well, I do have some questions about your commentary experience, but I think it's about time that we actually throw some laps together in Spa. What do you say?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So, anyone else out there, I did put it in the GridFinder Discord, the link, or at least the search term, because we are in ACC today, to get signed into the server. Let me know if... Actually, did I post the password? Because I think you have to have a join password.
There are
Let
a
me
few
do
people
that.
in there.
Oh, so
Have
we
to
should be okay.
tab in. There's
And where is my
Pulsatrix.
Steam?
Somebody called Pulsatrix is in there.
Nice. I don't think I will be doing VR, so thank you for offering Steam. So Spa. So what would you say is a good time for you around Spa?
A good time for me would be a 2-minute 19.
Okay.
So I'm sort of, I'm not quite a pro. I'd say I'm semi-pro. My racecraft is better than my outright speed. I know that ACC had an update, 1.8 update, and that slowed down the cars a little, but...
Really?
So I've been told. The cars have been not physically slowed down, but it's just become harder to do a lap in the same time. So people lose about a second around Spa. Unlike iRacing, where everyone just drives on the grass. But James Baldwin, I think he does he can do a 2-minute 17 around Spa. But then in real life, I know he was driving sort of 2-minute 20s in the race he was in.
Okay.
So it's interesting, sort of the differences between the most realistic simulator and real life. Well, he was racing at night, to be fair to him.
I will see if I'm able. I don't think you can flip cars in ACC, can you?
I don't think so. I've not seen it.
Well, if someone's gonna do it, it would be me, for sure. So let's see. You can.
Yes, you can.
Oh no, Mike chimes in with a yes, you can. So that is good for me. Not really. And it'll inevitably be, because every single time I've crashed in the streams in the past couple of times that I have crashed, it's right when Mike switches to me. He'll switch to me, follow me for a little bit, and then I'll just have an epic crash.
The old commentator's curse.
I don't know what it is. Let's see. Where did I put... Why am I having so much trouble finding things? There it is. So I see you use the short gloves. Are those sim racing gloves or...
So they were given to me by Racing Pride. I think Simhound, if you want to have a look, I think Simhound did some sort of special LGBT gloves. And so I'm not paid by Simhound or anything, but say they make very nice gloves. And they say got the logo, and yeah, they're very nice. I don't generally wear gloves when I'm sim racing. It's always one of those things I forget about.
I have to. So I have that Alcantara sim racing wheel coat.
Same.
And it just, my hands, if I grab the wheel without gloves, I just have zero grip whatsoever.
Oh no,
So I always have to wear the sim racing gloves, and I like the Sparco karting gloves is what I chose. Ooh, that's loud.
Whoa, I'm just trying to warm these tyres up. What I'll find is after half an hour, my hands will sort of get a bit too warm in the gloves.
Let's see. Oh, did I not? Oh, I didn't do the right thing. Hold on. I joined as a spectator on accident because I didn't.
That's not what you want to do. I'm curious who has joined us, who Pulsatrix is though. Because that's not anybody I know.
I guess I've been pretty bad at paying attention to names of who hops in the servers, unfortunately. There we go. Now I can drive, not just watch. Oh, I need to... So, on your rig, are you racing triples, or how are you...
Just the one. It's like a Samsung Super Ultra Wide monitor, sort of a 32:9 ratio.
Okay.
So I don't have the space or the patience with all the cables and the plugs for triples, and I did try VR, but it was just a bit of a pain every time you go from Windows to the game. And navigating in-game menus with a headset, it just wasn't very well optimized. And the Oculus Quest forces you to log in with Facebook, and I don't have a Facebook account. It was just horrible, so no, much easier just to have this one monitor.
The Oculus does not require you to have a Facebook account anymore. They did for a long time, but they actually just recently changed it.
Oh, really? That's quite... I mean, I've sold the Oculus. It was the Quest 2. I've sold it now, so... Yeah, I only got rid of it 6 months ago, but even then, it kept nagging me about... You know, I made a sort of dummy account on Facebook just so I could use it. But even when it was plugged in, you get about 2 hours use out of it, and then the battery dies, even whilst the USB is plugged in.
Yeah, I have one of those, like, little power bricks that I've attached to the headset, so it lasts a little bit longer. Because I still like myself some Beat Saber.
I've never actually tried that.
Really?
Yeah, I saw somebody playing it in the Red Bull Gaming Centre in London. It looks fun, but...
I'm a huge fan of Star Wars, so it's
Is this you?
my kind of thing. What?
Oh, I thought I was passing you.
Oh, no, no. I am taking my sweet time.
Posted. Oh! Why has she got that name? She's running under a secret alias that we've all just exposed.
Man, it's been a while since I played ACC. I gotta tell you. I'm more of an AC guy because I really love the Formula RSS.
Yeah, with Aidan Millwood, you were... Oh, that's right, yeah. You were on AC, weren't you?
Yes, we were. Most of the time we're on AC. What am I doing? I looked up at the stream for a moment and... Okay, well there's number one. Did you seriously just put me on and I crashed right away? I looked up at the stream.
Trying to do a serious slap.
It's a curse. Remind me to never have you broadcast a race that I'm in, because I will obviously just crash. Oh man, that's hilarious. Well, it's like I kind of set ourselves up for that. I talked about it for so long that it was inevitable to happen.
I'm just realizing my setup isn't best suited to what I'm trying to do.
Speaking
or
of
the weather,
are you good at setting up your cars for different tracks and different things?
No, I just use a service that sells setups on a subscription basis.
Oh, okay.
I'll use theirs as a base, and generally Coach Dave, which is handy because their name's plastered all around this Spa circuit.
Oh, it is, yes.
Yeah, they've got some solid setups, and I prefer ACC setups to iRacing because iRacing change their physics every 3 months, which feels like a con to force you into, you know, you have to keep going back and getting new setups because a 3-month-old setup won't work on iRacing because no, we've changed the physics entirely. We've tweaked every car, so you know what you had won't work anymore. Whereas ACC is a bit more stable year on year, and it's not constantly changing.
I really enjoy the consistency of ACC. I raced it a lot for probably the first like 6 or 7 months that I got my Fanatec stuff, and then I bought the Formula RSS and just have never really come back again.
Is that on R Factor 2?
No, that is AC.
Oh, that is ACC.
Yep.
So AC.
Just normal AC, and you know, you put all the mods and all that stuff. And one thing I do enjoy quite a bit is putting the RSS on tracks that Formula 1 doesn't race on.
Yep.
I find that to be a lot of fun. Frustrating at times, but a lot of fun.
I've got one more lap, I think, before I run out of fuel. 1.5, maybe.
It's like it's like I've never driven before. What am I doing?
Quick, try the brake with the other foot.
I do have it on a single monitor. I'm normally on triples. This does feel kind of odd, but I don't feel like doing ACC. The setup for triples is just not optimal versus AC.
You wouldn't think there'd be so much difference between them, would you?
Yeah,
being by the same studio.
So there's a way you can do it without using NVIDIA Surround, which I have, but apparently I didn't load it up correctly, so it's not working right now. But like AC, just normal AC, you just run it in triples mode and set the resolution, you're good to go. So that's probably also what keeps me over there a little bit. Convenience, you know?
Yeah.
So other than sim racing, what other games do you play? Do you play other video games? Like, I don't know, let's say a Call of Duty or something like that?
No, I don't say I work in a game studio, but I don't do a lot of gaming these days. There are some indie titles that I love to pick up and play. I like Papers, Please, FTL Faster Than Light, Curse of the Obra Dinn is one I want to pick up. I like these smaller, sort of simpler graphics to them as well. They're smaller experiences and stories. I'm not so much a fan of these, yearly regurgitated shoot 'em ups like Call of Duty, where just every year it's just, that's exactly like the last one. Shoot people that don't look like you. I'm just not. I mean, I'm not very good at them, and like Overwatch, I've never played Overwatch. If I tried it, I'll get absolutely mullered into mincemeat. I don't try to hide the fact that I'm no good at them. I think I grew up sort of playing Sonic the Hedgehog, so I do quite like action platformers. And if they stick with the 2D games they've been doing recently, I'll be very happy. Don't think it works in 3D.
I definitely enjoy myself some Call of Duty. I've played it since the beginning of Call of Duty, so it's been part of my life for so long now that it's kind of like just nostalgic, and I don't really want to give it up, But I do like the single-player experiences a little more, like Spider-Man and the Batman Arkham games and stuff like that. Just because you can you chill out a little bit differently. In Call of Duty, you always seem like you have to be on point, trying as hard as you possibly can all the time,
Yeah, it's an e-sport in its own right almost, isn't it?
Yeah,
because you're competing against others.
It's so old of a game now that just like everyone is good at the game. So you're always on level 10. There's never like a real chill game. No,
that's it. Whereas, as well, those games because they're all what they call AAA studios, they're all so expensive. Sort of £50-60 new.
70 now. Everyone's raising their prices to 70.
Whereas the indie titles that I enjoy, it's quite easy to pick those up for £10-15 new.
Well, being
Circuit Superstars is £12, I think, and
that's fab. I normally try to get games on sale, with the exception of Call of Duty, because I do the release party and everything like that with my son. So every single year he takes off school, I take off work, and we play for as long as we can physically stay awake, which he normally stays up a full 24 to 36 hours.
See, I worked in a game shop at a midnight opening for Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2.
Awesome.
I didn't want to be there, but people like you needed the game at midnight, didn't you?
Those were fabulous experiences, though, because like you would meet new people that you've never played with, and you would be like, "Hey guys, you want to play against each other?" Once we get logged in, you'd share and add each other to your friends list and stuff. It was kind of almost like a video game networking event. And I totally miss those days of going to GameStop and hanging out with a bunch of like-minded individuals. But yeah, the employees were typically not in the most wonderful of moods because they had to be there until midnight.
They've got to be there, and they're on minimum wage.
Yeah, it's not like they're making premium wages at there, yeah.
We had been told whenever someone buys Modern Warfare 2, offer them Mirror's Edge for £5.
What?
Nobody wanted Mirror's Edge.
Of course not. It's not even
related. But
well, A, it's not related. B, it's a release of a new Call of Duty. You don't want to pick up another game to play.
Nope, but
that's interesting.
I don't think Mirror's Edge sold as well as they hoped. So, and they tried to make us attach, upsell the insurance, and everybody would go, "But I have home insurance. Why would I need your insurance?" I'm there like, good point.
Yeah, it's I used to work at retail. I worked at CompUSA, Best Buy, and then also the Apple Store. So the upselling portion of those jobs was always like, well, I have to say this.
It's a bit soul crushing, and I suppose sort of ties neatly to the self-employment, because now I'm actually selling stuff that I like and I believe in and I know the quality of, because it's my own work, rather than trying to upsell almost a scam insurance thing to somebody for a console that, a home console, you're not going to break it really, because it doesn't get moved around like a Nintendo Switch does.
Oh no, tell that to the Xbox 360 with its red ring of death.
Oh, but they'll always say, no, that's not covered.
Yeah, that's true too.
It only covers for like accidental damage.
The trick, fix for that was wrap it in a towel and make it like superheat itself so that the solder points fix themselves. That was ridiculous.
Yeah. I did have an Xbox that did get a red ring of death, but it wasn't that red ring of death. It got a different lights lit up.
Yeah,
so it was a different.
There's the 4 light ring and the 3 light ring, and they were different, and like there was a fix for one of the two. Yeah.
Don't move the console whilst the disc is in there. We found that out the hard way. Like, really? Don't put the console from horizontal to vertical whilst it's on. It just cut a groove in the disc, and then it became unreadable.
I didn't know that.
So that was a new buy. That
full in with digital games though. The moment that digital games came out, I was all in because I don't want to have to switch discs.
But you can't sell them again. You can't ever buy pre-owned games again if you've got a digital-only console.
Yeah, I never really did that.
No,
I just kept everything. I still own it all, technically.
I suppose that is, even despite Steam's flaw of, you can't sell the games and you can't buy pre-owned games, you don't ever feel the need because there's always a sale and it's always generally pretty good value.
You know what's interesting about this whole I know we're not really talking sim racing, but it's gaming. The pre-owned thing, when NFTs were started to be talked about, I was like, okay, so this could be a way of like making it so that you could sell your digital games. Because you could sell the NFT to the game, that's your license, and then you could like, that would be a legitimate way that NFTs would work for video games, in my opinion. But they never went that route. They went with stupid monkey pictures instead.
Oh, the amount of people I had approach me for doing art for NFT, and not one of them came to anything.
So they would commission you to be the artist for their NFT? Is that how that was working?
Yeah, where I'd get a percentage of the sales, but then they never pursued it.
Well,
a lot of people talked about it.
NFTs will probably be a thing in the future, in all reality, but we have to get by. It's kind of like the loot boxes and microtransactions. When they first came out, they were trash and they were terrible. Not saying that they're perfect now, but they are better and not viewed upon as predatory as much as they used to be. So I think what it'll have to do is wait for a little while, a truly good NFT setup, maybe even like the buying of digital products like I'm talking about comes to fruition, and then they're generally accepted at that point.
Yeah, I think when it's new, everyone goes overboard on it.
Yeah, well, and then there were so many scammy ones out there. So many.
I think there was
when you do your commissions for Go for the Gap, now, is it just anyone can contact you? Because I did notice on your Twitter profile it says open for commissions.
Anybody
can? Let's say Grid Finder, just as an example, wanted you to do a special T-shirt design or something. I know this is going to be one of those questions that's hard to quote, but like, how much does that normally cost people? So if like an esports team wanted, or a Grid Finder league wanted their own custom logo or custom prints and things.
Well, a logo's generally, like, depending on the complexity of the logo or how many they want, like, it's generally about £300 for a logo. I've never designed anything for use on shirts, so that's...
Oh, really?
Something... Yeah, I've put my own graphics on a shirt before, but I've not had a team say, oh, we want a graphic for, our team to wear or for us to sell. So that would be new to me, but...
Well, that's interesting.
Something I'm
actually kind of surprised me that you haven't.
I mean, I know an artist who has. He works with an IndyCar team, and they've got like the IndyCar print on shirts and everything. So it's something I definitely want to do. And I've been talking to a couple British GT team, a GT Cup team. So it's sort of, I'm hoping it's stuff that's coming.
Yeah. The hard part about shirts, because I actually have a T-shirt press, and I do just the press on vinyl and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the hard part about shirts is that you have to... The design that you have in your head doesn't necessarily look good on a shirt a lot of the time. It's way different than logo design or just a generic like graphic advertising design. It's a whole different style of artwork that you put on shirts typically.
I generally take if it's like a graphic of a car, I'll generally take the background out.
Yeah.
Because rather than having a box picture in the middle of the shirt, it's nicer to have the car and then a few elements of the background that just sort of, they're not, you don't want the graphic to have that edge box on your shirt. You want it to look like it just goes off into the infinite space.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm going to slow down so you can catch up wherever you are.
I did see you at turn 1.
Oh, I'm at
Off in the
Blanchimont at the moment. I'm just looking on the mini-map. Nobody's near me yet.
Oh, maybe it wasn't you then. Because I saw someone on turn 1.
No, it might have been Pulsatrix.
Oh, there they are, right in front. Under the total sign.
Okay, so that's them.
Yeah. So, in the world of sim racing, something I'm terrible at is remembering corner names.
Oh, when you're a commentator, you have to know these things.
Yeah, that's true. That is very true.
Oh, I've just seen you a couple corners behind now.
Sometimes I drive really... Like, the last lap, I drove at what I would consider a acceptable pace.
I'll let you go past.
Now I'm just not going quickly at all.
Was that you who passed me?
No, I'm behind.
No.
I think I'm still behind you. Yep, you're off in the green.
So yeah, your best lap is 15 seconds off the pace at the moment.
Well, I haven't put together a completely 100% clean lap quite yet.
Oh, okay, that's fair.
That's what I do all the time right there. That corner gets me. I haven't figured out where I want to be on that one yet.
So this is all, that edge bit now is all gravel in real life.
Is it?
Yeah, I don't know if that is gravel there. They might have updated it in ACC, I'm not sure.
And I don't know what gear I like through here in this car. And it's not that one. Well, that wasn't terrible. Okay, well, we're all driving in. There's only 3 of us in here, right?
There are, yeah, there was 6 or 7 people signed up.
Are you so significantly more fast? That's interesting.
Well, I had the slipstream. Oh, they're sliding everywhere. Sort of Tokyo drift. They're drifting it on every corner, and I don't know if they mean to.
If they're not meaning to, still cool. But if they're meaning to, even cooler.
I think they are meaning to.
Oh, they have to be. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they.
I do miss that from Need for Speed Underground. What am I doing? Need for Speed Underground, the drift competitions and stuff, where you have to hit like the special markers on all the corners. I always enjoyed that kind of stuff.
I didn't like the drift stages.
Really? I liked them on controller, so I've never been able to successfully teach myself how to drift on a sim rig. No matter how many times I've tried, I just can't seem to get it right.
I think it helps if you have a handbrake as well.
Oh, I have one.
Oh, so I don't.
It just, for some reason, for me, it just does not seem to come together.
Here, follow me and we'll get you a lap in. I don't think people can see my car, can they can't see my view, can they?
It depends on what mics to switch to at the moment.
Oh, okay, everyone can see what I'm doing, okay.
Yeah, you've got the onboard, because if he switches to me, he knows that I will crash.
Brake a bit
see.
late there.
The pressure. The pressure. And then I forget to shift.
When I was in Belgium at Spa-Francorchamps with Josh, our phones told us over the course of the weekend we walked 30,000 steps.
Nice.
Because to get from one side of La Source to the other side of the La Source, we had to walk down here to Eau Rouge under the track, and then down the middle of the circuit, down to Blanchimont, and then walk around the outside of the circuit from Blanchimont up to the chicane, back up to La Source. Because we weren't gold ticket holders, so they wouldn't just let us take the short route through La Source. Yes.
One of these days, I'm hoping that Grid Finder will be invited to some special events and I'll get to see some of these tracks. One of these days. Ooh, I almost lost the tail end right there.
I do need to come see the Grid Finder Enduro car.
Yep. It's Enduro Cobb as well, right? Who told us? One of our guests told us we've been pronouncing it incorrectly for the longest time.
Oh, because it's
Enduro Ka or Enduro KA? I think it's Enduro KA. And I believe it was Aiden that...
Oh no, I've been saying Enduro Cab. I call it a Ford Cab. Is it a Ford KA?
Yeah, and
that's what I thought, yeah, because otherwise I was thinking, well, what does KA stand for?
Well, it's America. We don't have to have things stand for things. What are you talking about?
But that's a Ford you don't have in America, isn't it?
You know what? I think you're right. Ford is not really my cup of tea. Because of the Ford dealerships just have F-150s everywhere in America, so the trucks, the big trucks.
I think Ford is one of those brands where Americans think of it as American, but a lot of British people think of it as a British company.
Really?
Because the Fords we get are really different. Plus, the Ford GT that won Le Mans had a lot of British designers work on it from Lola, wasn't it?
I didn't know this.
So it went to a British division. I mean, I think it's in the Ford versus Ferrari movie.
I like the Ford Focus. Like,
Yeah, my parents do. My mum's got one.
If I was in the market for a new little sporty car, I'd probably get an RS, Focus RS.
But did you get Ford Mondeos over there?
We do not.
No, I suppose it's a bit like a Ford Taurus.
Those are gone now. I think, Ford makes the Fusion, which is the saloon. They make
we had a Fusion, but it was a little stocky hatchback.
We have the Focus, which is the hatchback, and I think they only make them hatchback now, actually. And is that the only cars we have?
Puma?
Nope, never heard of that.
Which is ironic, because when the Ford Puma first came over to Europe in the late 90s, it had an advertisement with Steve McQueen driving it around San Francisco.
That's hilarious.
All the more ironic, because you didn't get it in America.
Well, trucks are not super important, or not important, but popular over there, right?
Which cars aren't?
Like a Ford Ranger or an F-150, a pickup truck?
No, there's just no need for them over here, and they're just too big.
I mean, there's not a specific need for them here, unless you're a construction worker, let's be honest.
I mean, I've seen photos of an F-150 in Amsterdam, and it just looks ridiculous because it can't fit in any of the parking spaces. It gets stuck down the roads.
Are the roads really that much smaller there?
Most roads, yes. Especially in very old towns where they were just made for one horse and car.
Well, I guess I have seen the episodes of like Grand Tour where they're in their Ferraris and stuff like that, and they can barely fit down the roads, the cobblestone roads and stuff.
Yeah, you'll get that in places in Europe, and there'll be places like that in London as well. But it's just more when it comes to parking the things.
Yeah,
I've got a Fiesta ST, and sometimes spaces feel a bit too small for that.
Good grief.
Just for opening the doors, really.
Over here we have F350 dualies is what we call them, and it's the ones that have the two wheels on each side in the back, so they're even wider than a normal car. Kind of made for like towing and like for horse trailers and stuff like that.
I think Americans are compensating for something there.
They're humongous trucks.
Yeah.
They're very, very unnecessary and huge.
Whereas I had a tiny Smart Roadster, so... I'll
So
let you
you'd
fill in the blanks with that logic.
You'd come here with one of those cars, and it looked like a teeny little. What were those smart cars? Were they called smart cars? The little teeny tiny electrics.
They weren't electric, but I had a smart roadster, and kind of the size of a Japanese K car.
They weren't electric? I thought those were electric.
No. I think some newer ones are now, but the one I had built in 2005, it was a little mid-engine coupe built by Smart. It was so unsuccessful they stopped building them after 2 years. Nobody wanted it, and it just everybody claimed on the warranties because the roof leaked. It was a soft top.
Oh, convertibles. I will never buy another convertible in my life.
Yeah, I'm not sure I will either again. Oh, I've gone too wide.
Oh man. Here we go.
I've gotten so used to the Audi now I'm all horrible in the Aston.
Yeah, I'm having a little bit of trouble with the Aston now. I didn't make a setup or anything like that. I just kind of hit drive and went vanilla with it and whatever's automatically set up in the game. But it feels a little heavy to me.
It's good on the brakes, and I think it had a bit of a buff recently. It was a very unfavoured car in ACC, but the studio, is it 505 Games, have buffed it a little bit.
I believe so. Or Kunos?
Yeah, Kunos Simulazioni, something. The worst bit about commentary is when you get drivers with funny names that you're not sure how to pronounce.
Oh, they don't. They don't have the drivers like give you phonetic pronunciations or anything like that.
Sometimes I've just been called in at the last minute to do some commentary, and I'll just be faced with like a Dutch name or a Croatian name, and I'm just not sure.
That's where I would struggle because, you know, I would say everyone's name with like a straight up American accent, so that would be difficult for me to learn the different pronunciations of people's names. Kind of like America calls him Charles Leclerc.
Oh yeah.
You know?
I thought they might say, "Here's Charlie Clark."
You're right. I wouldn't be surprised if we heard that at some point.
I remember there's a sim racing group called RCI, Racing Club International, and they had a couple commentators who were brilliant. One English guy and one American guy, and I can't think of their names right now, and if they ever watch this, they'll know it's about them, because it was just a real opposites in terms of personality. So the American would be going, "Oh, and he's gone hard into the wall, and now he's got to make it back to pit road." And then the British guy would go, "Oh yes, that was quite a crash actually, wasn't it?"
Oh man, your American accent was fabulous.
Oh. Is that how good my impression was? That you've just gone, "Yeah, that's them."
That was such a good. It's kind of funny because Tom will do his American accent once in a while randomly too, and it always makes me laugh because it's like obviously perfect American, and I don't know, is American accent just easier to emulate than most other accents or something, or?
I suppose it depends what part of America, but I've found if I want to do an American accent for the lols, I'll start talking in a more flat tone of voice where my voice won't go up or down, and I'll just keep it this monotone all the way through. And I don't know if that comes across as American.
It kind of suggests like Texas or Arizona to me when you talk like that.
I haven't done the pit limiter. Or I suppose you can do American where it goes up at the end of a sentence, where every sentence is a question. No,
that's just a specific type. Like normally,
that's a Family Guy one
from ladies, and yeah, the Family Guy making fun of Americans in the way they talk like that. That drives me nuts though. When everything sounds like a question, I'm like, wait, am I supposed to answer you? What?
Yeah, because I grew up thinking I don't have an accent. Everybody else has an accent, but we don't. Right. I think we all just think that.
What is my time? What are you getting right now on times?
My best is 2:20.9, which is I could improve that by a second if I. It's maybe the track temperature is quite hot or something. I don't know. I can't see what the track temperature is, but
Well, I had it run in real time, so it's 152. So it would be getting hotter, and I think the track temperature at start was in the 20s, like 25 or something like that.
okay. I should be able to. Yeah,
Yes,
can make it a bit slidey, can't it? I remember Mike Simply Race was fishing around for drivers for the UK versus Australia, and it sounded so casual. And I thought, oh yeah. If you can't fill, if you're struggling to fill the slots, I don't mind helping. I'll pop in. And I thought, I'm just making up like the last couple seats that are probably going. And then the Australian team's got Felipe Bukida and like these pro league stars that are miles above what I was ever accomplishing. As and I've put all my practice into Bathurst that I've neglected the second race at Brands Hatch, and I've never driven the McLaren before, and oh no. And I think I beat one person in both races.
That's okay. One person's better than none.
But I've been invited on the assumption, oh yeah, Cammie's pro. It's like, yeah, I'm not that pro. Like, I wasn't even going as quickly as I had in the Aston.
Attention, and someone's right behind me, and I probably just totally ruined their lap because I wasn't paying attention to my mirrors. Sorry. I need one of those like amateur driver stickers on my car.
Oh, is that like the
almost like a
yellow box with a black square? Sorry, black X.
I just grabbed it from here.
It's a long string of. Well, if they go to my Twitter, I've shared the sim racing page on my Twitter, and they should be able to pick up the password from there.
I actually still have it. So this is the password I use to join. Mike, can you paste it into chat? Because I don't have a chat where I can actually send things. Oh, it's in there. Yeah.
It's not a simple password. It's like a Wi-Fi router password.
Yeah, it's like that.
Well, I was being nice for Chris.
It's definitely a router. Well, it's both. Yeah.
That's why I said, true. Like when I was saying, like, Mike, it's Simply Race, because I was like, oh, what if he's just the voice? Yeah, there's a voice in my ear that I've been aware. Yeah.
It's
nobody else can hear Mike.
Yeah, that should definitely be the password, the one with the 1 and the 4 for Sim Sundays. Because that's the one I use to join.
Can people still join?
They should be able to.
Oh, good. I just wasn't sure if sort of registrations counted down, and like once the event starts, nobody can join up. Then that was.
We just leave it for practice because of my immense skill. I don't want to be lapping people. Here, I'm gonna pull off to the side. So, okay, Cammie, I'm gonna be done racing for today because I want to get into some more questions. And then I actually didn't catch any viewer questions, if there are any viewer questions in there. But I have specific. Yeah, you're more than welcome to keep doing laps. I'll just distract you as much as I possibly can. But my questions all revolve around getting into commentary, actually. So, obviously, the GridFinder Discord has Find Commentators, and the GridFinder site, we have commentator stuff on there. And there's been times where I'll just use myself as an example where I've thought, what would be really cool is to get into some commentary stuff because I enjoy talking into a microphone. I'm sure you can tell by the podcast. And how did you get your start in commentating? Did you have to practice something or did it just fall into your lap?
It kind of fell into my lap. I sort of quite good friends with Alex Goldschmidt, who's quite a well-known commentator. Covers Rotax karting series. He's also does esport league events, and sort of I learned a little from him. I've commentated alongside him once, and it just depends. It's not something I can say you can learn because I've heard bad commentators out there, and it's just a case of if you can, to put it politely, have verbal diarrhea. You just need to keep talking, but you can't just say, car number 5 is going round this corner. You have to have knowledge. Everyone, don't tell people what they can see. Everyone can see what a car's doing and at what part of the track. The way I went into commentary was I thought, right, I should give my sim racing experience. I suppose most people haven't sim raced that are watching, or possibly haven't sim raced to the level that I was able to get to, and say that wasn't even anywhere close to, say, James Baldwin or Felipe Bikida. But I've got enough where I can talk to race drivers and we can all relate about, what the car's doing. So if somebody gets a spin, a bad commentator could go, oh, they've spun. I say bad commentator, I suppose. And a commentator could say, oh, they've spun. But then the viewer will be going, well, why did they spin? Are they just rubbish? Did something happen? And that's when it's useful to say, oh, looking back on the replay, the car's clipped the curb. That's got the car unsettled. The back end's gone light. That's when they've got a bit of oversteer. They've countered that. And, once you're that way round, you're not saving it and you're into the wall. Something like that. And also going into the emotions about it. So if you've got somebody chasing another car, there's a lot of psychology to it. There's people who will just happily follow, but not, I'm one of those drivers who will happily follow you and not try to make an overtake attempt for quite a long time because I like to chase rather than be chased, and I'd rather you just make a mistake.
Right, and then you capitalize on that moment. Yeah,
that's it. Sense. So in commentary, I know there are people who do that. I know there are people who will always be weaving around trying to distract the person in front of them as well.
Just hitting every single mirror they possibly can just to make them freak out a little bit, which would work on that.
Even if they're not freaked out, anything you can do that means they're looking in the mirror and not at the track ahead, it means just they're more likely they're going to miss their braking point. They're going to miss the apex. They're just going to make a slight mistake where you can capitalize on it, even if it's not right there and then. They'll compromise their entry into a corner, which means they'll subsequently compromise their exit of the next corner or the next sort of series of corners.
Which then is that mistake that you are waiting for.
Which is then, they're slow out of that corner. The person behind can capitalize on that. But it's also when it comes to the psychology of and the maturity. Sometimes you get sim racers who get a blue flag and they just absolutely do not want to be overtaken. Or you'll get the ones who leap out the way but do it in a really unsafe way. But you'll get occasionally the sensible ones who will just, they'll run wide at a corner deliberately, or they'll stay predictable, but then they'll follow the leader because it's a good opportunity for them to learn. If you've been lapped by the leader, try and follow them, see what they're doing that you're not.
See where their break points are, see where they're, turn in.
Yeah, don't run into the back of them. Do not do that. But they might be doing something a little bit different on a corner that you're not even aware of. And plus, it makes a sim esport event just look so much better when you've got drivers doing what they do in real life. When it's straight. I have been lapped. I've been lapped by Team Jensen Rockets Matt Richards. Lovely guy, but in the R Factor 2 E-Team Brit GT Challenge, they chose the Corvette, which was the favoured car, and we picked the Radical because we didn't know the Radical was awful. We had to pick the Radical because it had a Ford engine, and we were Team Fordzilla. And everyone kind of laughed that we chose it. And when I got lapped, I don't know, like, I didn't like being lapped, but it also felt like, hey, this is cool. This is what happens in real life. It feels more realistic. Because now I have to obey those rules and procedures that, the only thing sim racing is missing is the safety car. If there's a big wreck, people just hit the escape key and they're back to the pits. But I wish there was a safety car period where it could bunch up the field and bring in that unpredictability. And for commentary, it'd give us a break of talking as well.
Sure. That makes sense.
Because depending on the skill level, sometimes there's a crash over there, there's a crash over here, there's a crash over there, and you're trying to keep up with everything that's going on.
I think one of the biggest things you said in this for maybe budding commentators would be, don't just regurgitate what happened. People have eyes. They saw that the car spun. Talk about why, give it a little bit more details, something deeper than just repeating what's happening, because it's a hard thing to do. I mean, I've watched many of our invitationals and then, thought, what would I say here in this moment if I was commentating? And it's hard to come up with just random stuff. It's a little bit different than, say, a conversation in a podcast like we're having right now, that we can go off on any tangent we want, as we've done many times in today's episode. But this is a dynamic conversation that's only driven by the two of us, whereas in commentary, there is some of that dynamic conversation happening between the commentators, but most of the stuff is going to be reactionary based on what's going on the screen. And that's an interesting battle to have to go through, I would say.
That's it. I've only done commentary for Ownage Racing, so I am kind of trying to build up a show reel of my commentary. And, if I'd love to do commentary for other series as well. I did try
Would you say that you're the comic relief on the show? Are you the very serious person on the show? Are you the dry humor? What kind of role do you think you fill in the commentary box?
It's hard for me to put my own label. Because I don't try to be any one thing. I just talk about what I know. And I think, others have said it before, don't go in there trying to be Murray Walker. Don't go in there trying to be David Croft. Just do your own thing. Yeah. Although I admit, it is good to have a balance of entertainment in your Murray Walker and David Croft, but then also having the inside knowledge of, say, James Hunt or Martin Brundle alongside, who can talk about the things that David Croft wouldn't know about. Mm-hmm. Because you have to experience it. And so Ownage Racing will get maybe 50 to 100 viewers. So I'm generally thinking, okay, there might be friends and family of some of the racers.
Sure.
They might not have that sim racing experience, and they might think of it as just an easy game. And so I'm trying to tell them, unlike your road car where you can feel what's happening, under your bum in the seat.
Yeah. It's a completely different experience driving. Yeah.
It's very different sim racing. And it's easier for a sim racer to move up to real racing rather than a real racer to step into sim racing, because you're losing senses. So in sim racing,
that makes sense.
Yeah, you're racing without feeling what the car's doing underneath, and you're wholly relying on the visuals, the sounds, and what you can feel through the steering wheel.
Hands. Yeah.
That's it. It's
if you have some rumble pedals, you can feel a little bit there, but that's not valuable, really.
Yeah. I meant to get some at some point. I haven't been racing enough to warrant it, because I've been doing artwork and commentary instead, which I am enjoying.
Well, I mean, so
wrong setup.
It almost sounds like, I guess I'm searching for the words here. It sounds like it's really important for you to be able to experience sim racing at a pretty detailed level if you really want to be, I don't want to say a valuable commentator, but you just need to have that experience behind you so you can talk about firsthand what the driver's thinking, what the driver's feeling. And it doesn't
Yeah, just
have to
having
necessarily be 100% accurate. Like, you don't know the driver's emotions at the time, but you can draw from your own personal experiences on the track to kind of fill in the gaps.
that's it. Sometimes you very much can see the driver's emotions, if they've had a spin and they're facing the wrong way and they just put their foot down to just get going again, but all they do is spin again.
Second time.
That's it. And you think, okay, yeah, you're not calm. You've just planted your foot, tried to do a 180, and you've just done another 360.
Yeah.
So you're obviously not calm. You're sort of in the heat of the moment. You're angry because you've just, you've let that battle get away, and you're thinking of points lost and everything like that, or you're thinking you're the victim in the outcome.
Right. You're mad at something that you believe was done to you, if you will. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. It's only until after the race and you see the replay and you see it from the third person or the TV camera where you actually see, oh, okay, it wasn't as bad as it seemed from my point of view.
Right.
But there's also the case when you're racing, because sim racers often don't have a big team of people behind them. So the sim racer is driving, but also they're having to work out, right, have I put enough fuel in? How much fuel do I need? Often they'll do that before the race, but you're still thinking, okay, right, if I've got to lap, do I pit on this lap? Do I pit on the next lap? Right, I don't have a strategist telling me when I'll come out into, I might come out of the pits behind traffic. I might come out in free air. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So you're doing that behind the scenes.
So sim racing is harder than actual. No,
it's different. You don't have the fear. You obviously don't have the fear factor in sim racing. Whereas, obviously, I got to drive a BMW M3 sort of GT club racing car, owned by a team called Red Seal Racing, and immediately what struck me was the noise. And I can't heel toe. I've never done it before. I can't do it in my road car because the pedals are they're not set up for someone with little feet to do it.
Sure.
And they put the pedals at different levels to, I think, deliberately stop you doing it so you can't, be a street racer. And I kept worrying that I was going to over rev the engine on my downshifts. But they said, no, that's fine. It was just the engine was so loud because obviously all the noise insulation had been removed that I'd never heard an M3 engine at 6,000 revs without all the sound insulation.
Without all of the dampening for road cars, right?
That's it. And it just sounded so loud, I was worried I was going to break the thing sort of changing down too early or something. So I was sort of riding the clutch and being a bit nervous to change down.
Right.
And it's ironic because novice drivers get given free pedals, and then when you're a pro, you get the much easier flappy pedals.
Well, Cammie, we're going to have to wrap up this episode of Sim Sundays. So is there anything that you want to tell your followers or anyone watching or listening or direct
Buy my stuff, commission me, give me money.
Buy my stuff, commission me, give me money.
Give me money, give me money, give me money. No,
now your goforthegap.co.uk is your main site, and you're also on, I know you're on Twitter. Are you also on Instagram and things like that?
Yeah, Instagram and Twitter are just at Cammie Racing. And so I've got the Etsy store, which is etsy.co.uk or etsy.com. I think it doesn't matter.
I believe if you search for just Go for the Gap, your Etsy store does come up first, I believe.
I think so, yeah. It's like etsy.com/shop/Go for the Gap. Or just DM me and, sort something out. I try to be nice to everybody. I
follow you on Twitter because then you get trending tweets about racing as you did.
Yeah, sometimes I tweet. Yeah, sometimes I tweet a funny.
And also some fantastic astrophotography is in there as well.
Yeah, recent hobby that I've tried to get into. It's
good times.
relaxing, whereas racing is very fun, but you wouldn't relax by sim racing, would you?
No, not necessarily. Not unless you're a hot lap person and you just turn on some tunes like I do frequently.
Yeah.
But Cammie, I really appreciate you being here. This was a fabulous, fabulous conversation. And, you know, what I would like to do is reserve the time on your calendar at some point to be able to bring everyone back. What we want to do is a invitational race with all of the different guests that we've had throughout the year, and then they can all actually race against each other, and someone can take home the magical trophy. So we've had a lot of pretty good racers on here. Of course, Tom and I will probably be just running up the back, just trying to not get lapped too many times. But we figured that would be a very fun little event for everyone to get into. So if you'll hear from us again for sure in regards to that. But also, this episode will be released next week, and if you could share it, that would be appreciated.
Of course.
But, yeah. Go check out Cammie's artwork and go for the Gap if you want to just Google that there. You'll go to the Etsy shop or the main shop. And I found out today, like I said earlier, that the first G is the actual helmet, and that's a brilliant design. Very well done on that one.
Thank you very much.
Everyone, thanks for watching. This is Sim Sundays. You know, every single week we talk about sim racing, and today this episode is sponsored by Trak Racer, just like a couple of the last ones. So if you're looking to upgrade your rig or, you know, get off that desk-mounted setup, go ahead and go to Trak Racer. There we go. We got a Trak Racer rig right there behind Cammie. Fabulous stuff. Trakracer.com, and that's track without the C if you're looking for it. But other than that, we will see you next week. You can follow us all over the place at GridFinder. Just search for it on any social platform. Thanks, guys. Cammie, thank you very much. This was fabulous. We will see you next week, y'all.